We have a total of 5 courses, and with the 5th one yet to kick off later in this year. So we have the Certificate of Drone and Data Technology, Level 1. So that one is a 5-week program. Yeah, it's a 5-week program where people, about 3 weeks of that is GIS, and the other 2 weeks is the drone side of it, the physics and UTC. And you get a certification of top trust.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Africa Geo Convo, a podcast about geospatial innovations and people doing great things with geospatial technology in Africa. My name is Omowonola, and today on the show, on this episode, I'm joined by Alexandra and Ndapile from Malawi. Today we are going to be talking about drone technology and the African Drone and Data Academy. But before we go into that, before I get started, I just want to say a huge thank you to Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, ORT, who has been sponsoring this podcast for a while. ORT is a non-profit organization dedicated to humanitarian response and community development through open mapping. They work together with communities and organizations to provide map data, which revolutionizes disaster management, reduces risks, and contributes to achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So if you've been looking for how to volunteer for high impact local and global projects, contribute to OpenStreetMap, participate in mapathons, access grants and micro grants, jobs and internship opportunities, and ultimately contribute to the SDGs, please check out ortsm.org to get started. Also, ORT have been on the podcast before in episode 2, Mapping Our World, Saving Lives. Please do look up the archive to listen to the episode to learn more about ORT. Hi, Alex. Hi, Ndapile. How are you guys doing today? And how is Malawi today?
Hi, Ola. I'm doing great. How are you that side?
I'm fine. Hi, Ndapile. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. So glad to have you on the episode today, and so glad about what we're going to be talking about. So, but before we go into, talking about drone technology and talking about the African Data and Drone Academy, do you guys want to give us a bit of introduction about yourself, your experience, and maybe like some educational background as well? So maybe you can go first, Alex.
First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a great privilege. I appreciate that. My name is Alexander Mtambo. I am a graduate from the University of Malawi, the Polytechnic, where I studied electronics and computer engineering. Yeah, so I think I've worked with several organizations, and later on, that's when I got in touch with the African Drone and Data Academy, where I was first a student, and then I was part of the first hires as instructors. So I've been there since then until now. So should be about 2 years in April.
My name is Ndapile. I'm based in Malawi. I studied a Bachelor of Science at the University of Malawi Chancellor College, and my major was in geology. This is when I was introduced to GIS, and I took some particular interest in it. So after I graduated in 2019, I came across an advert about the African Drone and Data Academy, and some of the components were something that I was interested in, and I applied and was part of the first cohort that was held in January 2020. After I graduated from the academy, we were taken on board as instructors around April 2020, and I've been with them since.
Thank you so much, Ndapile. So that means Alex and Ndapile, you guys were like in the same cohort and you guys met when you got into the academy?
Exactly.
Yes, correct.
And now you guys now work together in the academy?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
That's very interesting. And Alex, I think your introduction, your background is very interesting. So I just want to ask, like you studied something related to electronics. So why did you then decide to go into the academy to learn how to use a drone? I think
the academy attracts people, let me say, like from primarily 2 major backgrounds. So we on the engineering side and the GIS. So the engineering side usually forms the drone, and the data, that's why the GIS comes in. So that's the part where I actually like come in. And it's the same pattern also, like when you're trying to enroll students into the cohort, into the academy. They may have probably zero or little knowledge with GIS, but they may be strong on the engineering side. And likewise, they might have zero or little knowledge on the engineering side, but be strong in GIS. So the academy attracts people from such backgrounds. That's where I came in, because part of what we do is actually is like designing aircrafts and a bit of physics, electronics, a bit of programming here and there. So that's the part where I come in.
Oh, so you mean that the academy is not just only to learn about how to operate drone, not just the GIS component. There's also the component of electronics, like building aircraft and all of that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, correct. So the design, you build, you put in some electronics, and then finally the actual piloting of the drones. That's what we do.
Okay, so I think that's so interesting. I really did not know that that was also like a component that was part of the academy, like the electronics part and the GIS part. So Ndapile, I think I want to ask you, because you said you were part of the first cohort. So from everything you learned from the academy, so I want you to explain drone technology to me, or to let's assume that I don't actually know anything about drone technology. So how do you explain that to me?
Assuming I'm talking to a layman that absolutely has no idea what drone technology is, I would say that, first of all, drone technology is an emerging technology that's advancing from previous techniques that were being used in different sectors. So we can talk about drone technology stemming from either aerial photography, where we were using airplanes to collect drone imagery. And as we progressed with technology, the airplane becomes smaller and the need for a pilot becomes invalid. So what the drone does, it eliminates pilot that needs to be in the aircraft, and it also makes collecting of drone imagery much, much cheaper, much efficient, and it also speeds the time at which you would go about performing an aerial survey. So the drone technology is just a more advanced approach in some of the applications that planes were being used to collect imagery. So basically, it's flying machine that's controlled from the ground. I think that's what I could say about drone technology.
I think that's a very interesting analogy you just gave now. So you mentioned that, moving from bigger aircraft where, there's a need for a pilot to a smaller technology where, I don't know. So how does it work if there's no pilot in the drone? So how does it work then? Like, does it fly itself, or how does it work?
The pilot is no longer needed to be on board. So for the drones, the drone pilot is usually on the ground and remotely controlling the unmanned aircraft. So that's how that works. So there is need of a pilot, but the way the aircrafts are controlled is remotely.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ndapile, for that. So now I understand that instead of the pilot actually being in the aircraft, the pilot is on ground and is remotely controlling the drone. Is like that's correct. We've established that that's how like the drone works. Yeah, and then you mentioned also while you were talking that drone like they collect data, like the drone collects data for, I don't know. So what type of data can I get from a drone? Because if I see like an aircraft, I know you can take. So I will assume that like the way it works with the larger, bigger aircraft is somebody's actually taking images somehow or like collecting data. So how does the drone actually collect the data? Like how does it work?
We have different types of drones, right? And depending on the application that you want to use your drone for, that would determine the type of payload that's mounted on the aircraft itself. So for drones that want to be used for imagery collection, the payload that's mounted on the drone itself is a camera. For you to collect images using your drone, what you basically need to do is set a mission. So when you're working with your drone, you have a ground control station that allows you to plan missions, that allows you to see the progress of your drone. And if there's a need for you to do anything to the drone in terms of maybe calibrations, or it just gives you the progress on how the flight mission itself is going, the status of the drone, is it safe to fly, etc. There's a lot of components that are in the different ground control stations, depending on which one you're using. So after you plan your flight mission, your drone starts off, and this is called an auto mission. So at that point, you as a pilot are not going to manually control the drone. your drone will just follow the parameters that were set. It will follow the pattern that you uploaded into the drone. So it uses the different coordinate points, seeing as to how the drones have GPSs mounted on them. So it uses the coordinate points that were allocated to them, and then it takes pictures on the specified points that you decided as a pilot. Basically, that's how you collect images. So after your mission's done, you download the data, upload it into a software that will process the images for you. And depending on the output that you're looking for, be it an orthomosaic, a digital surface model, or digital terrain model, you're able to produce this information using the images that you collected with the drone.
Yeah, that sounds quite interesting. Now we've established that there's a drone, and then the drone has a payload, which for our own data collection process would be like a camera. And then you set the mission, and then the drone captures the images, and then you process it somewhere in the lab. So I think I want to ask Alexander, like, what are the softwares or tools that are used to process the data? Because I don't want us to focus so much on the drone technology now, because this podcast is going to be talking about like the drone academy and how people can be a part of it. But then I still want to understand, when the data is collected in the field using the payload, what softwares then do you use to process the data?
We primarily use two softwares for the processing. There is WISPix4D Mapper, as well as Agisoft Metashape, but for the most part, it's Pix4D.
Okay, so like, can you tell me how it works? So I have my imagery now. Are those images, are they georeferenced already? Or is it like when I get those images, I need to push them into Pix4D and then get them georeferenced? And then depending on maybe the analysis I'm trying to look into, like how does the software convert my images to like a ready-made analysis that I can then use to like maybe make decisions about like a project I'm working on at the end of the day?
Let me give an example of a walkthrough, like for the Pix4D. It's, for the most part, it's quite easy, the steps that we use for the processing. So we normally look for, like, if you want to produce like an orthomosaic. So if you went out to the field, you collected all your images, which they have all the geotags on them. So you load them into the software, and then depending on the size, for example, so inside the cohort, we give students design projects. So sometimes like they go onto the field, maybe they are trying to simulate a precision agriculture kind of project, or maybe they're just trying to simulate a scenario maybe where maybe somebody is lost, and then you're just trying to find maybe the best path or maybe best route of some sort to maybe find them using GIS skills. They get all the images, and depending also on the time frame that they have, the students, like maybe the quality, like how much time it would take for the images to be processed, how many images are actually there. So when they're loaded into the software, it's just, I would say it's just a click after selecting a few parameters that they actually want to have as an output from whatever that they're trying to achieve. And then when it is all done, that's when, usually when there's now an orthomosaic, they now go through as a team, trying to make analysis, look at maybe like all the paths that are there, or maybe the readings, the heat signatures. If it was maybe using a multispectral camera, they read all the signatures, and then, so it's more, all of it, it's on a simulation level, but very practical. Yeah, so they can now make informed decisions. So depending on who maybe their client was and what type of project that they're trying to, maybe like they're taking on board, so they can now come up with recommendations or conclusions that, okay, maybe moving forward, this is what we do, and something like that. So they start the GIS, so our courses are divided like in two parts. There's a level 1, which is online, and level 2, which is in person. So this one that I'm talking about, they start this process from the level 1, online one. And when they come in person, they just try to like execute.
So now I think I'm curious about another thing. So has there been a need, like from your experience so far? Sometimes do you also need to then, because I know that when you have those images, you can call them raster data. Like at some point, is there like a need to then move these images, like this data, into other GIS software, say like QGIS or ArcGIS Pro or ArcGIS rather, to then do more processing? Or can you get all the results you need just using the for the software? Or do you sometimes also move those the data, the images to other GIS platforms to like do more analysis on them?
Depending what I would say on this one, it's yes, but it's not like compulsory, because as these projects are going on, it also depends on the skill that the students are actually trying to various projects. So another group of students will come and Pix 4D will just be all that's required. And another team would come and then they would actually see that they need, okay, maybe we need to incorporate like ArcGIS or ArcGIS and stuff like that. So yeah, it's an open space. We allow that. You would say maybe this group of students like did a very good job, another one just maybe just good. Yeah, but yeah, it's an open space. They can actually use all the softwares that are out there. Yeah.
So Ndapile, I just want you to give me an example of an application like that where after I've gotten like my drone data, like my data from my drone, and then there's a need for me to move it into another GIS software or platform to just work more on it. Can you give me an example of an analysis or like a project that I might be working on that would bring out that need for me to do something like that with the data I have from my drone?
I'm going to bring it back to what our students do at the ADDA. So part of the content that we teach them is the design projects. So the design projects usually consist both the drone concepts and the GIS concepts. So people usually go collect the imagery, and after they've created the orthomosaic, they now take the images and then either use ArcGIS or QGIS to do analysis such as slope analysis. So depending on what we told them to figure out, so maybe we asked them that there's a company that wants to construct a bicycle route. So ideally, we don't want very steep roads when we want to have a bicycle track, right? So they now use this drone imagery to find out the slope angles that are in the area that the drone actually collected the images in. So that's just some of the analysis that our students do with the drone images after the orthomosaic is produced.
Is it like a must to use drone imagery for that kind of analysis? Or maybe I should just put it this way. What was the, or why should I use the drone image? Or why should I go through the drone route? We have remote sensing imageries and they keep getting better every day. And in fact, we have Landsat Line now. We have Sentinel. We have a lot of them. Some are even in high resolution. So why should I go through the drone route?
So maybe the first thing that I can say is the resolution that you would be able to get using the drones that we have is 3 centimeters per pixel. And I think that's more than you can get through the satellite imagery. So yeah, it's more about the resolution that you're getting and also how quickly you can acquire the data and also the cost, right? I know that for you to acquire satellite imagery, you either need to wait for a bit after you request for the images, or there's a certain cost attached to high resolution satellite images. If you compare that cost to the cost that you can get from drone images, you really can't compare. And usually they're working with small areas, so it just makes sense to go to the drone route.
Maybe we can talk about the price of a drone. How expensive do you think a drone is?
So the drone that we're currently using, which is the Mavic 2 Enterprise, it costs about 3,000 USD. But another route that you take is you'd easily rent out a drone for a day, take the images for the area that you're interested in, and then proceed with your analysis. That will cost way, way cheaper than 3,000 USD.
That's awesome.
But I think I have a question actually. I don't know, because Emmanuel mentioned remote sensing and now you can just go and download them. So I think I just want to ask that in Ndapile, is it possible to also have a platform, I don't know, where drone images that are made open and then maybe say like for Malawi now, or like say for Nigeria, where people who actually have access to drones, who can actually acquire these drones, can just put those images out there so people can also have access to them without having to buy their own drone or have to borrow drone? As in, do you think that's something that is possible like in the future?
So I was saying that it's already happening. There's open aerial maps where people upload the drone images willingly, like no price attached to it. So if you're lucky enough to have images for the area, you can just look it up. I think it's openaerialmap.org. think it's run by Hort. So you can just check the area and see what images are attached to that place.
That's very great then. So I guess people are now aware that they can actually go and check out the website to see if they have drone images for their own area. So I think we can move on to talking about the African Drone and Data Academy now. So Alex, do you want to tell us about the academy? What is the academy about?
I think let me start from a background. The donor is UNICEF and the primary contractor is Virginia Tech University from the US. And as we're in partnership as well with Furman University from the US. So Furman University comes in on the GIS part, and as well as the Virginia Tech team, the Virginia Tech University comes in on the drone part, which is most like the engineering, EDC. And then the local partner, who is actually the partner that's implementing on the ground, is Malawi University of Science and Technology. That's where we actually are right now. Not like this minute, but yeah, that's where our offices are and our classrooms and labs. That's where they are located. Because it's a UNICEF backed up project. We primarily target young people between the ages of 18 and 24. Sometimes just slightly, if you are outside that age bracket, yeah, it's possible to be successful. But what we mean is just if maybe you scored the same score with somebody who is within the age bracket, we prioritize the one in that age bracket. But people, I've seen over and over people who are above 24, they're able to get in. It's a bit of a background also. So I think it came into place when Malawi wanted to, of course, all this mostly being championed by UNICEF for the most part. There's need for medical supplies in Malawi. That was when UNICEF would hand out contracts, and then companies from outside Malawi would be bidding, and then they come and they start executing the projects. But then I think what was lacking was the local labor force. So they'd come with their teams, but then no one in Malawi would actually be certified or actually know how to operate the drones, so which was very bad for sustainability. Yeah, so that's one of the biggest triggers for the ADDA. I must say about this, as Malawi, we boast of having the first drone corridor in Africa, probably the whole world, I think. Okay, at least in Africa, yeah. So I think, generally that's it. So we're just trying to get people out there who actually, because I'm sure you know that you can probably just go buy a drone, and most places are not as regulated. You can and start flying probably the next day without knowing a thing and without some safety and So we are there to provide the industry, to produce entrepreneurs and provide the industry with licensed personnel in the usage of drones as well as data analysis. I think that's what I can say in a nutshell. Statistics-wise, I've graduated at least 506. That is both on the online as well as in-person training programs.
I just now want to ask about the courses that you offer as an academy. What are the courses that you offer for the academy? And then what skills do people gain when they become a part of the academy?
We have a total of 5 courses, and with the 5th one yet to kick off later in this year. So we have the Certificate of Drone and Data Technology, Level 1. So that one is a 5-week program. Yeah, it's a 5-week program where people, about 3 weeks of that is GIS, and the latter 2 weeks is the drone side of it, the physics and EDC. And you get a certification of top trusted operator program Level 1. Apart from getting certificate of drone and data technology, which is from us, but internationally we offer certification to. I'm not sure if you know about it, but Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International, AUVSI. So we are in partnership with that institution, with that organization. So there's Level 1 and Level 2. So for those who undergo Level 1, the Level 1 doesn't give them the authority to start flying drones, but they can be visual observers amongst other duties as well. And when you're successful and you graduate and you bag that certificate, it's current and it lasts 2 years, and then you have to renew it again. So that's on Level 1. And then we have Certificate of Drone and Data Technology Level 2, and which is its prerequisite is a Level 1. So for you to make it into the Level 2, you have to have graduated and made it through the Level 1. The Level 2, that's the one that's now in person, the in-person training, where actually people come to appreciate all these systems, all these parts of aircraft, and all this intense GIS. So for all this, you need like to apply. When you apply, you get shortlisted, you undergo interviews, and then upon being successful, you are now enrolled. We have other 2 courses. It's called Remote Repowered Aircraft Technology, RPAT, where you're just learning pure about drones. This is a self-enrollment course. Like you just enroll on your own. You don't have to apply or anything like that. GIS, RPAT is like maximum, you have to finish the course maximum of 2 weeks. Likewise, we have data visualization and cartography. That's now on the GIS itself, and you self-enroll as well. And then upon completion, you actually get your certificate. The 2 weeks courses, the self-enrollment courses, tuition is free. Like you just enroll and then you start learning and then you get a certificate. But for the level 1, we provide a stipend for data, at least for data and the like. So yeah, we provide money for that. And also when you come for the level 2, it's fully funded. So that's if you're coming outside Malawi, it's for your air ticket. Within maybe a bus ticket, you provide accommodation and your upkeep whilst you're here.
That's for the level 2, yeah? The one where you provide if I'm right, then level 1 is not free.
The level 1, all of these courses, tuition exempted. For the level 1, it's tuition exempted. But when you're successful, what we can give you is we only provide money, a stipend like for data, which is about $100 to all the students.
Okay, that's for level 1.
That's for level 1, the online one, 5 weeks online, and then you use it for data.
Okay, no certificate comes with that one.
So you get a certificate of drone and data technology, level 1 from us, and you also get trusted operator program, which is from Association of Unmanned Vehicle Systems International.
For the other one, the in-person one, so like that means you take people from also outside of Africa, or is it only like for people in Malawi?
For the in-person, we also take outside people from outside Malawi. So that's the one that we provide. Yeah, if you're coming from Nigeria, so we provide air ticket, accommodation. When you come to Malawi, also as comfortable as you can get.
The in-person one, how long does it take?
We're running it for 5 weeks as of last year, but from this year, we are running it for 6 weeks. So we just put in more materials. So it's running for 6 weeks.
When does the registration application opens for the in-person one and for the online one? Do they open at the same time or do they open at different times? And how long are they open for?
Sometimes they may open in parallel and sometimes they're not. Also, how long they are open, maybe like for a week or 2. Mostly advertised through our social media platforms. So most of it's just like maybe like our targets that we have set that, okay, we need maybe to graduate this number of people, and then we just kind of spread it out. And then, we see, okay, when would be the best day to operate, to like open the applications to at least give people time. And also maybe to make all these arrangements in good time, like maybe, let's say for the in-person course, for us to arrange visas and the like. I can probably just give tentative dates when applications are more likely to open, but I think as we're talking now, applications are open just for the level 2, but the level 2, usually we don't make noise much compared to the level 1 because we already have a database of all our graduates from the level 1 because those are the ones that are actually eligible. What you're more likely to see out there is the level 1 now, certificate of drone and data technology level 1. Yes.
Just to be clear on it, so for the graduates of the level 1 program are like always the people you consider for the level 2 program. So for you to move on to the in-person one, that means you have to take the online course first.
Correct. Yes. Because initially the course used to run like for 10 weeks until like COVID hit. That's when we just divided that whatever can be learned online, they are divided into like 2 parts. So whatever can be taught online, theoretically, that's what's taken into the level 1. But then for the hands-on stuff, for the day-to-day lab sessions, all these things that data processing that need heavy machines that probably not everyone may have from their home, but we have them at the academy. That's when you actually get to appreciate all that. So that's where we are coming from. And yes, to be eligible for the in-person, you must have graduated from the online one, the level 1 first.
How do you gauge successful candidate? Do they write exams or do they carry out a project for the in-person and for the level 1 first and then for the in-person?
For the level 1, for the GIS, we have labs. that there, so you need to complete and at least pass most of them. We also have some questions, or where we have practical practice questions for the drone side of it, and the final exam also on the online one. We have a pass mark that all these things combined, you actually, when you reach that grade, you actually just have to, that's when you actually graduate. And upon attending also other sessions, you need to, because we have live sessions in between, in between the cohort. When all those boxes are checked, that's when you pass. Likewise for the in-person, but a new component on the in-person is so one of the things that our graduates graduate with is the remote pilot license from Malawi government. So that's another part that's included in the in-person. Like people from their civil aviation actually come, and then the students write a government exam, and then they also assess them on their practical flying skills. And then upon being successful, that's when, they get all the certificates.
So Ndapile, I think I want to talk a little bit about the certificates, because I know like for you to be able to fly drones in like countries around the world, I think you need a certification. So like the ADDA certificate that you give out and the other ones that you mentioned. So like if I get it now, say like I'm from Nigeria now, if I come and I attend the in-person class and the online class, can I use the certificate outside of Malawi? Like, can I travel to any other part of the world and then tender the certificate that yes, I can fly a drone, and this is the certificate that I have to show for that?
So ideally, our vision is once you acquire the certification from the Malawi Department of Civil Aviation, you should be able to take this certification and show it to your respective country's civil aviation, and they could now easily convert it into something that's valid in your country. So the same thing that people do with driver's licenses, you can have a driver's license, say from Nigeria, and you've moved countries to Malawi. You can go to the road traffic and then have them convert it to something that's valid in Malawi. So that's the same idea that we're trying to go with pertaining the certification.
And also, just to add on that, this one, if you can look it up, the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International, the top, it's a very high rated certificate in terms of flying drones. It's internationally recognized. Like you're saying, if you get your remote pilot license from Malawi, you should have an easy time to do the conversion in your respective country. But apart from that, you get a trusted operator program level 2. That one is internationally recognized. So that actually gives you another push to have an easy route when it comes to the conversion altogether. I also must mention that for the top TOP, there are like 5 institutions across the world that actually provide this kind of certification. And outside the US, we are the only institution providing such kind of certification regarding drone piloting.
That's fun. I just want to take us back to the discussion about the laptop and the machine that we have, or that you guys have in the office or in the lab. Is it like a minimum, for example, for the remote training or even for the physical training, there'll be some times where you give the students some assignments. Is it a must they use the laptops in the lab, or they are required to get a particular laptop with a maybe minimum requirement or something?
Oh yeah, for the in-person, even if you came without a laptop, you should be okay. Yeah, so our machines, we have the laptops that we provide to each of the students for as long as they're still at the ADDA, and the laptops meet all the minimum requirements with all the assignments that we actually give to the students.
Just a bit of clarification. So like after the training, they will go into the industry and want to maybe start setting up some stuff. So what's like the minimum requirement for a laptop or for a machine that can be used to process drone imagery?
I have seen 4 GB RAM machines, for instance, able to do the job. But I would say, okay, so like, if a processing was supposed to like take 10 hours, if it's taking 10 hours to process on a 4 GB RAM machine, for instance, it automatically means if you get maybe like an 8 GB one, for example, softwares like Pix4D, which are a bit of heavy softwares. I've seen 4 GB RAM, for example, working, but I would say 8 GB above works. And then with, of course, the processor, the other factors also coming into play. But 8 GB, at least if the RAM is 8 GB, that's one of the recommendations that we make at minimum.
You also mentioned something about supporting the remote training with, that was the level 1 training with $100. So is it $100 for the whole, training period, or it's maybe per week or per month, or how is it?
And for the whole period, it's for the whole 5-week period. That's primarily to help one with data, and there's a bit of a lab also where people have to like build a glider. That's a simulation of an aircraft using maybe like just foam board. You need to have like foam board or sellotape, a Caesar, just to help you with that.
The software you mentioned, Pix4D and Agisoft, are they free or proprietary? And if they are proprietary, do you have can you help with the cost or something so the listeners can also get to know that, okay, these are the things that you need to, keep in mind?
We have licenses, at least for the online courses. We provide them the credentials to the license once they reach a particular lab that actually requires Pix4D. Likewise, also in the common person, we have the licenses for that.
The last question I would like to ask, and that would be for Ndapile, would be like, when would the be open for this year? And maybe like when people who have been part of the program in the past, like, can you share how they've been able to make use of the knowledge they've gained in the academy, like to move forward? Do you have any story that is particularly so interesting that you might be open to sharing or willing to share?
The next applications for the level 1 should be open somewhere around May. Yes, I think that's when the applications are going to be open. I currently do not have any set tentative dates, but it's definitely going to be around May. As for success stories, we honestly have a lot of success stories. So once our students graduate, they either start their own companies. So we have several students that have different startups, and these startups have been engaged by different organizations to help them in activities such as drone mapping. We have other students that after getting the certification end up getting employment. So the employment is usually in the agricultural sector. So there's a company here called Farming and Engineering Services. So this is a company that's absorbed some of our graduates. And we also have other drone companies that are in the health sector. So they use their drones to deliver medical supplies to hospitals that are disconnected in terms of road networks. And when maybe there's a need for emergency delivery of, say, blood or certain medication. So yes, these different companies, we have 2 companies that are operating currently in Malawi, have also absorbed some of our pilots. And I think that's a success, at least for ADDA and also for the students, because they're well equipped, they're trusted to be able to run the operations in these respective companies.
It's quite big. I mean, imagine, and the other ones are not like maybe like directly, if I may say, like companies that are like doing medical supplies. I'm sure we've made their lives easier. It's easier anyway, and probably a little cheaper as well. Because imagine if you're going to a country with a new technology and it's just a team of people, maybe from Australia or Germany, who are the only guys who actually know what to do. But right now, it's like they go into different parts of Africa. They're releasing adverts, and then we have people that are trained. For instance, like in Malawi, we are in the central region. We have Wincopter that's hired pilots. We have people also for Swoop Aero, so it's operating in Malawi. It's also like recruiting our graduates, and I'm sure if they were coming, maybe for starters, coming with a team of 10 people, which was more likely to be like more costly, more, like expensive. Right now, you just come into a country and people already know what they're doing with just maybe a few trainings, and then they're up to speed. So those are some of the things that are actually revolutionizing the industry.
Yeah, thanks for sharing those success stories. Where do you see drone technology in Africa? Do you think it's going to be widely adopted, or what can you say about the growth of drone technology in Africa generally?
I wish we get to that point. Personally, what I want is if we change the trend as soon as possible, and I think the ADDA is coming in quite huge on that. If most drone operations would start and end in Africa. And I think we already geared towards that way. What I mean by that is, right now I'm sure the drones that probably 99% would be maybe like China, for instance, and maybe the most efficient ones. Yeah, so I'm hoping that with the graduates, the knowledge and skills that we're actually providing here, if we can get big on building our own drones, custom made. If you really go far in trying to get something, maybe it just be Malawi and Nigeria. Okay, like maybe let me order something from Nigeria to make this work. Like if we can embrace the technology in general, and then everything is just centered within Africa, because I've come across like very talented students in different softwares, to talk like SolidWorks and the like. Like this 6 weeks, I don't know how best to say it, but if you can maybe talk, and some other time talk with one of our graduates, like it's fully packed. It's fully packed, like somehow as if you're undergoing a master's program to an extent, because there's just like so much going on. I don't know if you mentioned it, but also train our students in radio telephony proficiency. I'm sure if you're familiar with radio telephony is, the ability, because our pilots will actually be using the same airspace with the actual manned pilots, so they need to be familiar with the language that they use. So all this Alpha, Bravo, Delta, Charlie kind of language, they also undergo through that within the same period of like 6 weeks. So there's design projects, there's actual exams. You have to learn how to fly a drone. You have to understand which motor, which propeller actually works better to produce this. And all this is going on within that 6 weeks period. I look forward to the day where we can actually just start manufacturing drones as if it's nothing, like highly efficient drones, like as if it's nothing. And I think we're not very far, because I've seen our students, like you give them a drone, almost an open source drone that you can use, like for them to modify it into a spraying drone. And within that period, they're there, like it's spraying as if it's a DJI, of course, on a prototype level. But they understand the electronics, they understand the programming, they understand how to insert a payload, the camera on it to be able to trigger it to have the drone take images. It's actually here. I just hope we work in it consciously and willingly.
Having institutions like ADDA, are pretty close. Maybe we should mention about the popular drones that are currently used for survey and stuff. What kind of drone would you recommend for image acquisition? Because you've been mentioning DJI. Is there any other type of drone? Like, can you maybe give some examples of drones that we have out there and maybe their strengths or something?
We have like parrots, like the parrot discos. We have the EB. All those fall into category, depending, I would say there's no problem. We can probably not say that this is the best drone. I would say the best drone is the one that actually meet the particular kind of work that you're trying to achieve. So like these two that I just gave, they are best for precision agriculture. So they have their multispectral cameras are really like quite good.
Disco and EB Sensefly are like I don't want to say the best, but like they're recommended for precision agricultural activities.
Yes, correct.
Because of their multispectral sensing capability.
Yeah, so DJI, that's the company, and of course under it as well, they're like producing different types of drones. So they have another one for like precision agriculture that also has like a multispectral camera, and another one also for, I think they just released it's called, but I think there's a Phantom for multispectral camera. That's the one. Yeah, it has a multispectral. It's a quadcopter with a multispectral camera. And then there is the tear grass with different versions. That one is used for spraying, so spraying chemicals and the like. And then I think it comes in about 3 versions. There's a T16. The number is for liters, so it can carry up to 16 liters of chemicals. And then there's T20, that means 20 liters. And the latest is T30. The latest is T30, I think carries 30 liters.
Drones already using drones in spraying chemicals in farms.
Yeah, and it's growing quite big here in Malawi. and I'm sure other countries as well.
Do you have any last words you like to share in the Pele?
Yeah, I could just encourage the young people, whoever's going to listen to this, to actually look into drone technology and also data technology and see how applicable they are in the various sectors. Because the applications are really wide, they're unimaginable. So you just need to be interested. And once you're interested, do the work. And I think you can do big things with drone technology right now. So we're in a very good place to become stars. I think that's all I can say. We have the right platforms and the information is there. Just be very resourceful. I think that's why this podcast exists, because it wants to bring this type of information to a wider audience so that people find what they're looking for. So it's really an honor. Yeah, it's really an honor to be here and talk about drone technology and also data technology in Africa.
Thank you, Ndapile. How about you, Alex?
I think I would agree with Ndapile. I would also say that people should learn to take advantage of this technology. Graduate or not, drones provide with you. I know Africa, like unemployment is one of our biggest challenges here in Africa. But I want people to open their eyes and know that drones are actually coming in to probably reduce with a significant figure the unemployment rate, because even if you have a job somewhere, but you can always have a gig, a side hustle with just your drone. Upon getting certified and licensed, you can actually, maybe on a weekend or maybe just during lunch hour, you just go somewhere, do some mapping, take aerial, maybe just pictures or just videos, and then make a bit of money. You can start with hiring, but eventually maybe get your own drone. Eventually get your own drone, and then the pay is really good. The pay is quite good for the most part. It's worth it. So I would pitch it mostly towards the self-employment side of drone usage, apart from being employed in a company or an organization. Yeah, that's what I would encourage young people to look at it for.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think that really piqued my interest. I should start looking, start watching out for the next application.
It's quite good.
Can you share maybe where the listeners can get to reach you, maybe your social media account, Twitter handle, email, or any means of communication?
I think the fastest would be emailing us at ADDA@vt.edu.
Thank you. I'll make sure to drop that in the show notes. How about you, Ndapile? How about your personal social media accounts?
My Twitter handle is at Ndapile_M, or you could just search Ndapile Mkuwu and I'll probably pop up. That's the most active. And also maybe my LinkedIn, which is also just Ndapile Mkuwu.
How about you, Alex?
For me, it's primarily Twitter. Yeah, not Twitter, sorry, LinkedIn. And it's Alexander D. Mtambo. Yeah. On the other side, I'm just...
Interesting.
Yeah, so LinkedIn.
So I'll make sure to drop the links in the show notes so the listeners can get to connect with you. You know, some people might have some more questions and personal questions, so they can easily reach out to you guys for clarification. All right. Thanks. I guess this was really interesting and enlightening.
And that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you've been able to, get enough tips to get started. And now you know about the African Drone and Data Academy and what they do and how you can apply for the program. I also want to say a huge thank you to all our listeners over the world. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. We hope this podcast has been very helpful to you as you start or progress in your geo career. Finally, we always appreciate your feedback and opinion. So please feel free to reach out if you have a request or a topic ideas, or if you know anybody doing great things with GIS in Africa. You can connect with us by reaching out to us on our Twitter at Africa Geoconvo. You can also send us a mail at africageoconvo@gmail.com or check out the website africageoconvo.com. We'll be so glad to hear from you. And don't forget to share this podcast with your networks. This is how you can help to support us and make this podcast possible. Thank you and see you next month. Bye.